Communication is a vital part of our existence. Every single day of our lives, we speak, listen, read, and write. Whether you're a student, a member of your family, or a member of the society, you take part in various communicative situations. Do you ever wonder how communication takes place? Do you ever appreciate how communication helps you in every aspect of your life? Hey awesome people, this is Sherwin. Welcome back to my channel. In this video, we are going to talk about the function, nature, and process of communication. Communication serves many functions in order to help you share thoughts and ideas with people. There are 5 functions of communication. Let's get to them one by one. Communication functions as a form of control. Communication helps regulate actions and behavior. A traffic enforcer calling your attention whenever you, as a pedestrian or a driver, violate traffic rules is an example of this function. This function may likely happen whenever your parents at home or your teachers at school impose rules and regulations to follow and apply to. If you happen to violate these rules and regulations, a corresponding punishment may be given to you in order to establish the value of discipline on your part. Communication functions to allow social interaction. Communication is meant for sharing and conveying messages, expressions, and information. There's no better way to share your thoughts and ideas but through social interaction. This function is always present whenever you talk with your family members at home, whenever you excitedly gush about your common interest with friends, whenever you discuss about lessons with your teachers and classmates at school, and whenever you find yourself in small conversations with acquaintances or even strangers. Communication functions to provide motivation. Communication can help make life better. When you come across a friend who is so down and sad, your instincts would tell you to share positive words in order to provide encouragement. You give pieces of advice and share your own personal experience to help lessen the burden of the problem your friend is going through. With this function of communication, you become an agent of change and positivity. Communication functions to help emotional expression. Communication is a tool to express feelings and emotions. As an affected human person, you feel numerous feelings and emotions. One and perhaps the greatest form of expression of these feelings and emotions is through communication. Admit it or not, it feels good whenever you are able to speak about your joys and pains or your feelings of fulfillment and frustrations. It even feels better when you can express it with such intensity to equal the strength of such feelings. Communication functions to facilitate information dissemination. Communication functions to convey information and provide awareness. You tell your parents about the upcoming school events in order to inform them about what's going on in your school. You speak privately to your teacher about your personal concerns regarding your academics so that your teacher becomes aware of the factors that affect your performance in class. You listen to and watch announcements and broadcasts about current events concerning your country for you to be well informed. I know that these functions are really easy to understand, and I'm pretty sure that you can answer this exercise. The word communication comes from the Latin word communicare, which means to share, to impart, or to participate. Stephen McCornack defined it as a process of sharing and conveying messages or information from one person to another within and across channels, contexts, media, and cultures. In order for you to better understand communication, you have to take a closer look to its nature. That's right, Stephen. So let's look at the nature of communication. Communication is a process. Communication is a process in which a source or speaker sends and encodes a message through a channel to a destination or receiver. The receiver decodes the message in order to give an appropriate feedback. This process is dynamic or always changing as it occurs within a context, which constantly varies depending on so many factors like the people involved, the place, the channels used, and the situation. Communication always occurs with noise, which affects the entire process in one way or another. Communication occurs between two or more people, the speaker and the receiver. Since communication is basically an exchange of ideas or information, it is two-way. There is a source of the message and a destination. This can be in a form of a face-to-face interaction, a phone conversation, a group discussion, and even a letter or email correspondence. Communication can be expressed through written or spoken words, verbal, actions, non-verbal, or both spoken words and non-verbal actions at the same time. Communication has two kinds, verbal and non-verbal. Verbal communication is the kind of communication that uses symbols that have universal meaning for all involved in the process. These symbols are known as language, used in both spoken and written communication. Non-verbal communication, on the other hand, is the use of symbols other than language. These symbols could be in the form of gestures, bodily actions, facial expression, eye behavior, and many more. Generally, communication takes place with the combination of verbal and non-verbal elements, as one kind complements the other. Please remember this. Communication is a process that takes place between two or more people, which may either be in written, spoken, and other forms apart from the language. Okay, it's time to see what you have learned. Communication is a process that begins with the sending of message from a source to a destination who gives a feedback or a reply. This process is continuous because the moment the feedback is sent to the original source, the persons involved in the communication situation constantly exchange roles, thereby starting the entire process all over again. The communication process begins when the speaker creates an idea and goes through a process called encoding, where he or she converts this idea into words or actions to form the message. This means that the speaker chooses the kind of communication to be used, whether it is verbal or non-verbal. If the speaker chooses verbal communication, he or she uses a language for speaking or writing about the message. If the speaker decides to choose non-verbal communication, he or she will have to use non-verbal means such as gestures, eye contact, and other bodily movements. After the speaker encodes the message, he or she then sends this message through a chosen channel or medium to the destination or the receiver. There are varieties of possible channels or media to send out a message. For face-to-face conversation, the five senses are the most common channels of communication. Nowadays, however, technology has paved way to communication even in distance. The channels that can be used for distant communication are the cellular phones, television, written media forms, radio, and the like. Once the message is sent to the destination or the receiver then performs the process called decoding, where he or she interprets the message based on the context. This context includes the people, the place, the situation, and even the common experiences of the people involved in the communication process. The context also takes into consideration so many other factors like the age, position, and even the cultural background of the people involved. The formality of the place and the situation are also other factors to be considered. And all these considerations affect how the receiver decodes the message to make the appropriate feedback or response. After the feedback is sent to the original source of the message, the communication continues. In the process of communication, noise is unavoidable. In fact, it is always present in every communication situation. Noise is anything that affects or distorts the message in the communication process. This comes in different forms, namely physical, physiological, psychological, and semantic. Physical noise is the most common of all these types of noise. These are common sounds that distract the communication situation. Examples of these are the honking of cars along the streets, the buzzing of the electric fan, or the loud voices of people in your surroundings. Physiological noise stems from the body and may tend to distract the people involved to properly perform the encoding and the decoding processes in communication since they are not feeling well. Some examples for this type of noise are body aches and sickness. Psychological noise can come in the form of worries, problems, and anxieties. When you are involved in a communication process and you have any of the examples of psychological noise, you may not be able to concentrate on the message, thereby affecting the entire communication process. Semantic noise comes from the language used in the communication process. If a language used in communication is not familiar to either of the people involved in the process, the communication may likely fail. For instance, a foreigner is asking for directions from you, and both of you do not understand each other's language. Therefore, the communication will fail. Another example for this type of noise is the use of highfalutin words, or words that are not understandable to another person involved in the communication process. This will not make the message clear and will only confuse the destination of the message. Let's see what you have learned in this lesson. shout out to Mr. Mark Anthony Colasito for sending in your request. And to all of you awesome people, thank you for watching this video. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Stay awesome. Bye.